Most Yoru guides are outdated or only work on 1 or 2 maps. This one, it covers every map, including the newest ones, and by the end, you'll know exactly where to TP, fake, and win no matter the side. Starting off with Ascent, this is probably the most balanced map in the game. It's equally good for both attackers and defenders, making it one of my favorites. For attacking on Ascent, I want you to approach it with the mindset of halves. You're not going to want to full send it to back site every round, as tempting as it is. Instead, think about how you can clear the first half of the site and then the second half. Don't be slow, but stay methodical. Almost every round, you're going to want to look for some type of mid control, whether it be from you or your team. It will make taking each site infinitely easier, that being Cat for A site and Market for B site. When you're taking Cat, always ask for a mid smoke and use your clone to enter from Cat to Tree while simultaneously have your team push out of A main. If you're not playing mid and you're approaching A main yourself, send a TP to the box on the right side of site and flash TP in with it. This will let you clear the entire front half of site without being exposed to heaven and the rest of site safely. For B site, I almost always have my initiator get info with the drone or whatever it may be into B main because it's so highly contested and save my utility for taking site. B site is a bit more difficult for Yoru because there's not a lot of good flash TP spots. The best one in my opinion is flash TPing into logs from B main as your team executes out with your flash as well. This lets you fight anyone on switch and lane while being completely protected from stairs and CT. Just make sure you have a smoke market or at least someone holding it so you can then take the rest of site safely. For defense, you want to approach it with the mindset of getting early information fast. This early information will let you set up and rotate faster, resulting in more wins. You want to look for control of each main as frequently as possible. Combo with your teammates and find ways to force the enemy to change their game plan. Don't overdo it and cost yourself the round, of course, but don't be so easy to give it up. You should also be looking for fast TP rotations to the opposite site based on the early round info you get. For setups, on B side, I like to play logs with the clone on lane to bait utility. And for A side, I like to play an off angle on top of Gen or Hell with a TP in heaven for safety. Here's a bonus Ascent tip. You can actually updraft on top of the tall box in A heaven. This play is super unpredictable and almost always gets me at least 1 kill in a main or tree. Just make sure to have a TP set up to exit with because you're pretty exposed once they know you're there. Before we jump into Bind, which is honestly one of Yoru's strongest maps, if you've been getting value so far, you're gonna love the Yoru Masterclass. 208 Yoru mains are already inside. Some have hit Immortal and even Radiant after learning the exact systems that I teach there. It's not just map tech. You will learn how to win more games, climb to your dream rank, and get coaching and support along the way. Use code FREE25 for 25% off before this offer ends. Links in the description. Let's get back into it. Moving on to one of the best Yoru maps in the game, Bind. You really want to approach this map with the mindset of absolute chaos. With the teleporters, you can cause so much confusion and really mess with the minds of the enemy, giving you an insane advantage. Mentally, on attack, you want to always be thinking about the best path or team combination to split whatever site you're hitting. Which means when you're hitting A site, your team should always have someone Bath, and on B site, always have somebody Hookah. I don't care if you have to do it alone, but please do not just 5-man run it down into one corridor and hope for the best. I see this so often from my students, and stopping this alone increases their win rate dramatically. When attacking, always look for ways to utilize your clone first and then a flash TP second. Most sites are pretty short range, so you don't need to be going for these long range gap filling map control TPs. Focusing on using your clone to lead the way and get you info that you can then play off of is so much more important. Flash teleporting is still important, so let's talk setups. For A site, I typically have a clone set up for my team to go down main and then take Bath with a flash TP myself. This lets me provide value from both sides and also can give me info if anyone is playing towards Bath if my clone is shot from that direction. For B, I always hit site from long with my clone because the window in Hookah prevents my clone from entering site, minimizing the value. Then I take elbow and aggress a little bit. I try to always keep a teleporter anchored long just in case I need to dip. And I can even play the post plant from long, so it's a win-win. When it comes to defense, this is when you want to start getting a bit more into the mind games. It's much easier to use the teleporters than on attack. I always try to look for common patterns I see from the enemy and think about how I can mentally have them second guessing everything with the teleporters. For example, if they're hitting Sands or Hookah a lot, I'll send a clone through mid-map teleporter to stall them a bit. Same thing if they're hitting Bath. I'll send a clone through the long teleporter to stall or start conditioning them for a bigger play. Just make sure if you're taking the teleporter to use your clone after you take it, so it only makes the global sound once and then you can send your clone out. This will make the enemy think only one person took it, your clone, so you can then jump out and surprise them with the real you shortly after. For setups, I always have a rotation TP set up towards either site. On B side, I always like to play B long and use the one-way flash towards the billboard. It's super OP and almost impossible to deal with even in higher elos. Try to wait for audio confirmation of enemies pushing up before using it though. For A site, U-Haul control is crucial, so I always try to play it with a shotgun or some type of close range weapon. Winning fights and baiting utility before they full clear it is really easy here with your clone, making it so much more difficult to take for them. I got a big bonus tech for you on Bind, of course, and yes, it involves the teleporters. This works for both teleporters, but let's use the B long one for example. I'd start off with a rotation TP from B site to A heaven and go play B long. But let's say there's nobody pushing you B long. What you can do is jump into the TP, spam a ton of bullets, and really get the attention that you're behind the enemy. They know it's the real you because you're spamming bullets, so to them, there is serious danger on their flank. Once you shoot a little bit and stall their push because they're so worried about their flank, you take your TP to A heaven and completely confuse them. This works for either teleporter and completely melts the enemy's brain, especially if you do it a lot. Let's move on to one of my favorite maps in the game, Haven. This map has a lot of really cool Yoru tech, and your mindset should really be focused in on maximizing your utility everywhere you can. Yes, that applies to all maps of course, but this one especially. I won't be able to show you all of the tech like I do for my Yoru Masterclass students, but I'll show you some key points you should take note of like we have so far. For attack, as mentioned, your flash TPs and clones thrive on every site you hit. So mentally, you want to always be looking for ways to take advantage of it based on the enemy's setup. It also is unique in it having 3 bomb sites, so don't be afraid to pivot to a different site if the one you're hitting doesn't go as planned. Also, faking hits is very powerful, so look for opportunities there as well. My favorite crucial setup for A site is pushing A long. Most people give it up pretty easy, and if someone's opping, just flash to get them off. Then I send a clone into A site to get info on the site player and flash TP under heaven to clear back site. For B site, I only really play it if I'm lurking. I usually keep it TP with my team wherever they may be and try to catch rotators. But if you are hitting it, always send your clone in for any utility first because there's almost always something holding the entryway. C site is probably the easiest site to hit. Before the round starts, I like to have a clone set up in grass towards garage to pull some attention away from site. Having even a little bit of garage presence can make hitting C site so much easier. Then you want to flash TP default to clear the first half of site first before then moving to back site. Please don't just full send flash TP back site unless you know it's safe to do so because it is extremely risky. For defense, you want to approach it with a flank mentality. You don't need to be doing it every round of course, but attackers usually give up one side of the map most of the time, and you can use this to your advantage by teleporting past trips or any flank holding util. Try to look for early information where you can, whether it's down A long, mid window, or jump peeking C long. Then, based on the information you have, approach the flank slowly and wait for confirmation to flank. If they're defaulting and flanking isn't working out, there's nothing wrong with a good rotation TP to keep things effective and simple. Setup wise on A side, I almost always play long and hold the A lobby cross. If they start pushing you, go for any of your favorite long flashes and try to get a pick before backing up to site. I don't hold mid often, but when I do, I'll start the round holding mid window and push down to check grass or jump into the window. Just make sure to have a TP to escape with because this play is really risky. For C, I like to tuck in the corner on plat with the clone setup behind the box mid site. Just make sure you have someone break your dart or utility for you. Then as they enter site, pop your clone to make them think you're playing back site. This setup almost always nets you a kill or two because most Yorus clone from where they're playing. For the bonus tech on Haven, I want to show you how to fake hit, and the easiest one is on A site. Have your Jet or Cypher smoke your A lobby cross and then send a clone down sewers. Because the enemy long can't see who's crossing, the players on B and A both think it's a real sewers push and can pull rotations fast, especially if you push with it and show some presence long before TPing away to catch up with your team. Moving on to Lotus, which is another great Yoru map. This map is defaulted on a lot, so mentally, you never want to overcommit to anything. It's very easy to feel like the coast is clear when it's actually not on this map. For attack, you want to go in with a really flexible mindset. Defaulting is strong on this map, so don't ever feel like you need to full send it. Your utility is strong, your flash TPs are strong, lurking is strong, and you have a ton of options. Spread out and look for a pick that can give your team a free sight and focus on the post plan. For my attacking setup on C, I always flash mound for early control. Especially if it's being opped by a chamber, this is usually enough to get them off. From there, you can clone onto site to break utility and start setting up a flash TP. The best flash TP on C site requires a smoke CT from your controller. Once you get one, send your TP towards the CT smoke and take it right when it's in the CT smoke. This gives you a crazy flank onto the site or CT players, especially combined with the pop flash. B site attack is a bit weak because even if you teleport past the lurk utility, your TP is usually in range to be heard from the other sites, exposing your play. So instead, I like to send half my team through the breakable door over by A link, while me and one other person full send it with the flash TP on default from B main to split hit the site. Trying to take B site without having A link control is like not having U-Haul control on bind. It's possible, but will make your life so much more difficult. A site attack has a very linear setup that works super consistently. If your team is hitting site, when the walls drop, take a flash TP straight to tree door. If the enemy is contesting it super well, opt for a flash TP to rubble instead. Once you get to tree door, send a clone on the right side of the door and then swing the left side yourself. This will let your clone take the hit from anyone playing close, and the door will protect you from being shot while you're trading off of it. Also, try to angle your clone so that if nobody is in tree, it will continue to walk on the site fully, giving you even more value. Defense on Lotus feels like a retake simulator. Approach it with the mindset of being okay with that. Fight for site, of course, you don't want to give it up for free, but don't make dumb plays and lose the round in 5 seconds trying to defend the undefendable, especially in solo queue. Look for ways to get easy picks or coordinate with your team to combine utility and take the control of highly contested areas early. For example, on A site, you could have your raise nade rubble to stop them from crossing, combined with your flash and a smoke to completely stunt their A site hit. Setup wise, starting with A, I like to set up a TP towards C right as the round starts and rush tree. This lets me hold both entrances to A site with a safe getaway if needed that most others would have to give their life up for. For B, I like to get a bit aggressive and immediately jump peek to see if there's anyone pushing. Usually if people are hitting B, they'll show themselves immediately. If there's not, you can go for a risky flank or back up towards B heaven and get ready to pivot towards either site that your team needs you. C site is where you will find yourself playing the most. This is because Yoru has so many great pop flashes to contest mound more than the average agent here. For example, the double flash play on mound is so strong that after pulling it off once, most enemies won't even bother hitting it out of fear of you doing it to them again. This threat, or existence of a threat, can sometimes net you over 1/3 of the map for an entire game. It is way more common than you think. For a bonus tech on Lotus, I want to go over how to get a free kill on chamber mound players every time. When attacking on C, as the walls drop, you want to send your TP down through mound and towards CT. You don't need a lineup for this, it's really easy to hit, but here's the tricky part. Right as your TP is approaching waterfall, that's when you want to flash the chamber. This will make the chamber panic, making him take his TP to waterfall thinking that he's safe. But in reality, you weren't TPing on chamber mound. You were teleporting to his teleporter in waterfall, netting you a free kill. Next up, we have Pearl. Pearl is surprisingly a great Yoru map that has good variety overall. Mentally, you want to approach this map with a huge focus on mid. The A and B link areas are crucial for winning rounds on both attack and defense. For attack, it's typically better to have a more aggressive mindset because there's tons of great flash TP spots. On attack side, make sure to always be looking for the perfect moment to take your flash TP. Timing it is a lot more important here than other maps due to certain sightlines you're exposed to. The best setups for attack, starting with A site, is to grab the orb first, and then, standing where the orb is, set up a flash TP on default so you're not exposed to art, or set up a flash TP to art. Art is typically smoked off, so you don't have to worry about being exposed to sight when taking it. This is even better if you have teammates pushing art through mid to pinch the art player with you. When attacking mid art, always send a clone at an angle to where it enters art but also keeps walking down art link too. This helps expose any player that's playing mid connector. For B site, you almost always want a clone to scale up long for you. B long gets opt a lot, so always let your clone tank the first op shot and then use that window to take long control. From there, you can set up a TP to B halls, default, or even the enemy spawn if the opportunity presents itself. You're probably wondering about B link, but I really don't like playing it much. However, when I have ultimate, I will almost always take B site by traveling through B link because clearing B long with Yoru's ult is a waste of time and map control. Moving on to defense, you want to approach it with a very flexible mentality. Due to how deep attackers have to commit to an area before executing sites, they will often have lurkers or try to feel out the map a little before fully committing. So you need to always be looking for ways to be available across the map. You will be going back and forth between sites a lot. For setups, starting with A site, I like to send a rotation TP to B and hold a super tight angle on the A orb, or jump peek mid from art right when the walls drop for early mid info. On B side, I set up a rotation TP to A and typically play behind screens with a clone setup on site to play a crossfire with. It's also important to have a teammate playing from site to break any info gathering utility that might clear you. By having your teammate bait and clear util on site, you can set up a perfect crossfire for free kills. If you don't see or hear anyone long though, don't be afraid to TP A early for backup. Most of the time, if the enemy is hitting B, you will know right at the start of the round. The pro bonus tech is a bit situational, but if you can pull it off, it's practically a free round win. As the round starts, go to B heaven and jump from the platform onto the box closest to the corner by B long. Then wait for the round to start. If the round starts and you hear enemies hitting, anchor a TP on top of the box and drop down for a retake. Then on the retake, flash TP site with your team on top of the box. Nobody ever expects a Yoru to flash TP on top of a box, and this has won me so many retakes. Moving on to split, which like the name is half good and half bad for Yoru. You really want to put your mental on mid control probably more than any other map in the game. For attack, you need to have a team oriented mindset. This map is extremely utility heavy, so working with your team to execute will make your life a lot easier, especially for mid control like I mentioned earlier. So always be looking for ways to win mid by comboing with your teammates or utility, because if you win mid, you win the game. For setups, starting with A site, I almost always set up a flash TP for hell. Other than mollies, you only have to worry about clearing close right because you are protected from everything else. Then you can send another TP onto site to fully take it. Another play is the classic flash TP lineup to ramps, but I find it's not nearly as consistent. For mid, you want to break the sage wall instantly if there is one. Tell your team to help you. From there, smoke vents and send a clone into male that also scales into heaven that you and your team can follow up with. Again, this is an extremely contested area, so don't be afraid to ask for more utility to help take it. On B side, I like to hug the wall and hold the garage swing. From there, you want to clone site for any utility and then flash TP straight to back site so you're protected from heaven and default. Just make sure when you're flash TPing, you're throwing a high flash to default so the enemies around won't dodge it. This is pretty crucial because there will absolutely be enemies around. Moving on to defense, you want to have the same mindset you do for attack. Win mid and use utility properly. However, I typically leave that up to my teammates because Yoru doesn't have a lot of utility to defend mid with. So look for setups on A and B that can give you good flank or map control opportunities. Defense setups on split are super easy. For A, you want to play screens with a rotation TP to B, waiting to see if you see any cross to ramps. I have another secret A-side defense play that almost guarantees eco round wins, but I teach that exclusively to my students in the Yoru Masterclass, so if you're curious, click the link in the description. If you don't see across the ramps or any utility, you can rotate to B or start a flank and see how much map control you gain. Like I said, I typically don't play mid as Yoru, but if you do, always buy a judge and hold heaven with it. Heaven on split is one of the few spots in the game where buying a judge is literally better than buying a rifle, even if you have the money for one. For B, you have a ton of options. You can play rafts and hold the garage exit, in the corner deep back onto B site with an off angle, or default with a flash ready to jump on anyone executing site. For the bonus tech on split, it's going to get you potentially a free kill for those annoying backside B players. Walk into garage and hug the wall immediately to your left. As you're hugging the wall, look towards the wood wall covering the back of B site and aim along the right side of the white piece of paper on the wood wall. This lineup will wallbang and kill anyone camping this cornerback site. Next up, we have Sunset. This map is extremely close range, so mentally, be alert at all times. It's very easy to walk face first into an enemy at pretty much any given moment, and the fast players will shine here. For attacking, you need to be fast and ready to strike as soon as the round starts almost always. Constantly be on the lookout for holes in the enemy's defense and patterns you're seeing round after round to give you an advantage. For attack setup, starting with A site, you're going to want to flash TP towards A elbow with the flash bouncing in the window that you can then clone from elbow to site and pinch it with your team. Mid is pretty easy for the defenders to get control of fast. If you're taking it from the B side area, smoke off top mid and flash mid for anyone pushing down. Do not waste a single second when doing this or it will be pointless. Instead, hitting mid from tiles is a much better play. You can see all the way into market and even break the door for your mid players if needed. B site is super chaotic and a lot more difficult to hit. Yes, you can clone the Cypher Trip, but honestly, if you have Ray Satchels or Silva Shocks, have them break Cypher Trips instead. From there, try to flash TP onto default or under the platform to the right of B site. If you're crouching as you exit your TP, you can actually protect yourself from the platform players and focus on what's in front of you on site. With your defense approach, it's the opposite of attack side. You need to be ready for the attack players to be rushing you at all times, so stay calm. Have your setups ready and be ready to adapt. Always look for ways to defend each main if possible with great one-way and unique undodgeable flashes. This will slow the attackers down immensely and ruin their momentum. Setup wise, starting with A site, set up your rotation TP for B of course and peek A main for early info. If you don't see anything, don't be afraid to adapt towards mid and help your team where needed. It only takes a few seconds to transition from defending mid and A back and forth. Mid is pretty straightforward. Hold down mid if it's not smoked, but if it is and you want to contest it, throw a flash towards bottom mid to stall their push and take cover behind the small wall in mid. This will be your only way at even remotely staying alive and give you enough protection to TP away if they're committing to mid. For B-side defense, you will almost always have a Cypher with you because this is his strongest site in the entire game. Knowing that, play into his strengths and try to get free kills off of his trip when you can. If you don't have a Cypher, use one of the many great A main flashes and contest it a little bit. For the bonus tech on Sunset, I have an amazing Yoru updraft spot for you. On the double boxes of A site, you can actually updraft on top of them. Do it the same way you would a normal updraft, you just have to wait for the clone to walk down the top of the box and hit the wall. This updraft spot is crazy strong, and because of the awkward shape of the box, the enemies never expect it. A lot of Yoru mains, especially newer ones, aren't a huge fan of Abyss due to how easy his TPs can fall off the map, and there's a ton of harsh corners making his long-range rotation TPs annoying, especially with how big the map is. Mentally, try to be a bit more aware of where your TP is so you never fall to your death by accident, and be a bit more methodical with your plays. For attack, a lot of your plays will require a bit more effort and setup than usual, so be ready to put in more work than you already have to as a Yoru main. Once you find what plays you like, focus on looking for what's required for those setups and don't hesitate to take them. The best A site setup is actually a rare one. Once you cross over A main, assuming there's a smoke down for you to cross, send a flash TP into the back left corner of site. I hate full sending back site TPs, but in my experience, it actually works well here. There's not a lot of cover front site for you, and defense players very rarely play back site, so you're actually a lot safer than it seems. For mid, you're only ever going to take it if you're splitting A. Knowing that, you can smoke the end of cat and push down cat to break the door to split A site. Then, before the second door break, you can send a clone from vents onto a tower to exit safely. Just make sure you and whoever else is mid with you are holding B link, because the enemies will swing you from there if they hear mid presence. For B site, Yoru's strongest setup is actually in the post plant in the back of site by the edge of the map. Because Yoru's TP can travel so far, you can actually fully camp back here and stall without the pressure of needing to exit safely. When you're on the back of site in danger, send your TP to B main and stall until you need to leave. You can even jump off the map and TP on your way down to confirm your getaway without being shot mid-animation. Then stall even more from B main. For defense, you need to focus on macro plays, which is another word for the bigger picture things, especially map control. The map is so big, it's very easy to flank and slip through enemy territory for insane map control. Always be looking for information you have across the entire map so you can make a game plan around it. For example, if you see all 5 enemies on a site, you know you can flank safely and take as much space as possible. Setup wise for A, I like to contest A main with flashes and utility combos with my team. If you can manage to take A main control and force the enemy to pivot, because the map is so big, by the time they do, your team can be set up in amazing sneaky areas and catch them off guard. Mid, I like to push down lower from B link up against the wall of books and try to get a good off angle pick on cat and TP away before being traded. If they aren't there, don't be afraid to push even further and try to catch any rotators off guard. B site is super easy to defend. I like to play an off-angle back site just like the post plant for attacking and then jump off the map to TP away for safety when needed. Super simple. For the Abyss bonus tip, I wanted to mention another updraft spot because it is so insanely effective, I would feel bad not mentioning it in this video. On attack, have your team plant on the A site bridge and updraft on top of the box in A main. The post plant from this updraft spot almost always guarantees you a pick, and it's also great for catching the flankers off guard. You can even have another TP on top of the box so you can drop off of it if they find you and then re-teleport on it again to double catch them off guard with another updraft. Try it in your games, thank me later. Next up, we have Breeze. This is probably one of my least favorite maps in the game, and it's because of how out in the open everything is, so mentally, you want to be really careful with your teleporters because it's really easy to get caught out in the open. For attack, as I mentioned, your flash TPs are pretty weak overall compared to other maps, so your mindset should be more in a lurk mode. I don't like to lurk much on Yoru, but this is one map where I really take advantage of it. On attack, you want to look for gaps in the enemy's map control that you can slip through unnoticed. The map is so big and rotating takes so long that most people will rotate instantly on any form of contact. So don't be afraid to play the opposite side of your team and try to get some picks with a quick rotation TP to catch up with whenever you need to. You can also get away with some cheeky spawn TPs that are actually viable and not just clip farming that I'll mention here shortly. For setups, if I'm not lurking, I'll almost always push and hold mid doors off the rip and try to catch any rotators. You can also send a clone down halls to pull some attention away from A main, and even send a TP towards their spawn from halls that sneaks past the enemy pretty consistently, since most people don't hold it for very long after the walls drop. Most of the time, you'll have a Viper, so after she places her wall on A site, you can try to flash TP the cubby area if you have info that someone is here. For B site, I always use my clone to bait out utility first. This is an absolute must with how small of an entryway there is, and then I follow it up with a flash TP towards the left side of site behind the wall. This can be difficult to pull off, so really practice at maximizing your flash in order to make this easier on yourself. For defense, you really want to approach it with a lot of patience mentally. People move a lot slower on Breeze than most maps in the game because you're committing to a lot when you hit site. Similar to attack, on defense, you want to be looking for gaps in the enemy's offense that you can slip through for quick picks and get out safely. Let's talk about different setups that you can pull this off with. For mid, I'm typically holding the cross to mid doors and aggress to elbow. If you hear someone close, you can get a really nice double box flash against the elbow players for a free kill, or even start going for a flank through B main. You can also push down mid and sit under the tower waiting for a mid cross, but this play is a lot more common nowadays, so people usually clear it. For B site, I'm usually tucked in a corner around pillar, asking my team to break util for me, or I'm back site. Then I'm swinging their exit with high flashes off of the pillar. For A site, try to play around pyramids, using them to get good one-way flashes off, or pop flash through Viper smoke to get a kill or two before TPing out. You can also have a clone go down halls to mess with their mental a little bit, but it's a bit more advanced and you don't always get a lot of value out of it. Now for the bonus tip on Breeze, let's talk spawn teleports, because they're actually viable on this map and can be useful. The two big ones are both in halls. For the defense one, you want to stand up against the wall with the pipe and look towards halls. Throw your TP out with your crosshair just a little bit away from touching the door, and it should take you all the way to the enemy attacker's spawn. For the attack one, you want to go up the rope and stand in the corner to your immediate right. Aim your crosshair down halls right in the center of what's visible of the door to you. That should take you all the way to the enemy defense spawn. The reason these are viable is because you're so far away from everyone, it's almost never heard, allowing you to get really good flanks off. Moving on to Fracture, this map is very confusing to a lot of players, but I'm going to tell you the key mindset you need to have when playing this map. Stop grouping up, especially on attack. For attack, you need to always, and I mean always, think about how you can use this map's design to your advantage. It was literally built to favor attackers, and it gives you so many routes to surround and pinch your enemy into unfavorable positions. Always try to look for ways to split up and hit the enemy from both ends. So if you're hitting B site, for example, you should have half your team hitting arcade and the other half hitting B main stairs. Same goes for A side dish and A main / A sands. When it comes to attack side setups, I really like to hit arcade on B side. I feel like the flash TPs from B main are lackluster and too gambly. I typically will have the cross to heaven smoked to get to the rope safely, or I'll just TP across and climb up myself. Or an even better play, if I have a jet or waylay, I will flash heaven and have her updraft dash in with it. For A side, I almost always play main. I find that most enemies give it up easily, and taking site with a flash TP or even sands with a clone provides so much more value for my team, even though it's a bit harder than taking dish. If you struggle with A main, just flash TP or clone dish for an easier route to site. But again, splitting up and pinching the enemy is truly what matters here. For defense, the rotation time is really short, so have a mindset of anchoring sight until you have clear confirmation that you need to rotate. It's okay if you miss your rotation TP window because it won't take you long to run over there anyways. I always try to make sure my team is holding all 4 entries and paying close attention to what info we have. This map is not defense sided at all, so you need to look for every advantage you can get. So this means you can gain a lot of map control very fast if you play your macro game correctly. Use this to your advantage. My favorite setup for B-side defense is a bit aggressive but super effective. I like to push down B stairs with the iconic one-way flash to get early info and a quick pick or two, or play arcade and try to gain map control early. For A side, I like to get early info A main and contest it as much as possible since it's the most active area of the map in my experience. If I want to take a slower approach, I'll push into dish and try to take map control. For the fracture bonus tip, I have a really cool flash tech to show you guys. The 2 main spots to use this are going to be retaking A site from spawn and dish. If you're pushing to A site from spawn and look at the ceiling, you'll notice a hole with a big wall staring at you through it. You can flash through this hole onto the wall to flash all of sight for a sick retake. You can also do the same flash over on dish if you hear someone pushing up. Just look up and throw the flash as far as you can. As many of you know, Icebox is in my opinion the worst designed map in the game, especially for Yoru. It has a lot of good flashes, but overall your flash TPs, clone potential, and even lurking is non-existent compared to the other maps. Mental wise, the map heavily favors agents that can reach high surfaces easily. Think Jet, Raze, Omen, etc. So you have to go in with a hyper aware mindset and be really meticulous with your clearing, especially on A site. For attack, I constantly am looking for ways to get picks, clear slow, and using my clone to bait as much utility as possible. Team coordination is also crucial on this map because mid is practically non-existent, so most of the time it's 5 people rushing a single entryway over and over. For setups, when hitting A site, I like to send my first flash TP under snipe box. This keeps you safe from screens and lets you clear the front of site first. To make it even better, you can send a clone left side towards maze before flash TPing to better clear your blind spots. I don't ever hit mid, but if I do, I like to send a flash TP under mid tube into the bottom of kitchen entrance. If you have a Viper wall, it makes this play even easier. This lets you jump into kitchen and catch any rotators, or at the very least, pull the B defenders back, giving your team an easier B-side hit as you flank it from mid. When attacking B-side directly, be sure to jump peek to see if they're holding yellow. This is a common op angle and can be really deadly. From there, try to get a flash TP set up towards yellow for yellow control. Once you have yellow control, getting the spike down is easy. For defense, try to approach it with the rat playstyle mentality. There's so many high ground spots, corners, and cheesy angles for you to play that you can really abuse for free kills. You want to be looking for the high Yoru flashes you see in all of the Yoru mains videos. Even in higher elo, these are super undodgeable and effective to this day. Try to look for weird off angles like on top of screens or unexpected corners that the enemy wouldn't be commonly clearing on attack. That is what makes this map so unbalanced, so you might as well use it to your advantage. Setup wise, starting with B site, you want to play in the small indent on the B main wall with a one-way flash ready to be thrown off the orange crane above you. Just please wait for confirmation that they're close before throwing it, and make sure to have a TP towards Snowman to get out or to rotate faster with as needed. For mid, if you do happen to play it, try to find a good flank TP. Whether it's under tube towards the outside of A side entrance or from boiler to the enemy spawn. Because the spawn is so deep, you can usually sneak past all of the flank utility without being noticed and get really nasty flanks off. For A side, the best setups are on top of high platforms and off angles. I also love the flashes on A side. One of the best ones is playing under screens and throwing a flash above you off of nest to one-way flash everyone pushing A main. The bonus tech for Icebox is actually a Hail Mary eco round play similar to the B main flash. But instead of flashing and swinging, buy a judge and have a TP set up against the container by the orb B main. From there, use the normal one-way flash, but then TP and try to go for a massive multi-kill with your shotgun. This tech is super cheesy, and you'd be surprised by how often it works. Just make sure the enemies are actually close before flashing, because anyone who is not flashed will kill you instantly. If you enjoyed that video, watch this one next. And if you want to master Yoru, join the masterclass. Link in the description.